And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is 11:30, and Scott's camera is already malfunctioning as we get this started. On Sunday, September 21st, Indiana football is 4-0. They absolutely destroy Illinois last night.
I might do this whole thing like the guy from Home Improvement, just over the fence. Wilson, what was it?
Yeah, Wilson. That's right. Wow. That's like a Home Improvement callback to bring in the younger viewers, Scott. No, but Indiana with an amazing game yesterday. We're going to talk all about it here on CrimsonCast. I'm Galen Clavio. He's Scott Caulfield. For those of you who have been around our podcast and IU football, I know there's a lot of anticipation. For those of you joining us for the first time, we're pleased to have you here.
I bumped into so many people yesterday, which was awesome, but all of them by like halftime were like, dude, the show tomorrow is going to be awesome. I can't wait for the show tomorrow. Like, there was so much excitement. I was just like, I'm excited for the show tomorrow.
I know. I said the same thing as I was walking out of the stadium. Several people were like, yeah, we can't wait to tune in. We can't wait to talk about it. I mean, I can't even say that this was the type of game that we've waited for. I think it's the type of game we didn't know existed. Like, this is something that we didn't know was actually possible. And that's not taking anything away from the amazing games that happened last year under Curt Signetti. It's just a different level. And
this was like a double restart game. Like, if you're Illinois, you restart the game on the PS5 at halftime, and then it's like second half starts, like, I got to restart again.
I think this is the game where you are like, I need to lower the difficulty level from Heisman to All-American.
Right. It's like, is my controller working? Like, do I have the right batteries in?
I better go watch some YouTube videos and figure out how to scheme against that defensive
zone. Yeah.
But man, there's so much to dive into with this one, and we're going to dive into it throughout the course of the next hour and a half. Plenty to talk about. We'll see if my voice actually survives, as there's some shredding that's happened here over the last few days. But as B. Ralston 345 notes, what a great morning to be a Hoosier. The energy was just palpable in the stadium. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the amazing statistical performance that Indiana put on in all three phases of the game. We're going to talk about the big picture in Indiana's football, perspective nationally, and how people are going to process this or not. We've already seen some of the same narrative machines trying to classify this game as not that big of a deal, which is fascinating.
Let's talk about the Ole Miss win.
Yeah. Or maybe, hey, you won at Utah. You must be great. But a lot coming up. But first, just a couple of reminders, folks. We are brought to you by the Back Home Network, your place to go for the finest in college fashions, the softest fabrics, the coolest designs, the purveyors of both the Evil Oval t-shirt and what Scott's wearing, which we got to tell the people, Scott, we got the video linked, and it's like we're wearing the same hoodie. So I had brought a costume change. I'm
surprised it doesn't happen more. It probably should happen like 3 times a week.
But it just highlights the great apparel that Home Field Apparel puts out there. All of the amazing IU gear. They had a pop-up store at 14th and Woodlawn in the grass lots yesterday, and just some great stuff. Brand new apparel. There was a great new IU collection. You all need to go check that out. We did a live podcast from Home Field at Trax on Kirkwood on Friday, myself and Rhett Lewis, and it was amazing. The number of people that came in and got a chance to see the awesome setup they've got there. Use the code HOME23. Get 15% off your first order. You can get a t-shirt just like this, or what Scott's wearing, or any of the other amazing gear that Home Field Apparel has put out for IU football. You got to get decked out for this. A lot of people came to the game, didn't realize it was a red out, went to the 14th and Woodlawn pop-up location, got a red shirt, and it helped to contribute to that amazing atmosphere in the stadium. Home Field Apparel, we've loved partnering with them for years, proud sponsor of the Back Home Network. Also, folks, if you're watching us live right now, you're watching us on YouTube, you should subscribe to the Back Home Network on YouTube.
Your voice is struggling.
We're going to feel like emergency tea coming in or something. I did not keep it under wraps yesterday in the game. We had to get the defense going. But it will be a marker for how amazing that experience was in the stadium. But Back Home Network on YouTube, not just this show, but so many other shows that cover IU sports. The Assembly Call, we've got the Doing the Work podcast, X's and Joe's. Obviously, news shows like Sideline Stories and Football Weather, and the Big Red Carpet with Rhett Lewis, which he'll have what will be an exuberant episode, I'm sure, Monday. So go subscribe to the Back Home Network on YouTube. Subscribe to the shows on their own feeds as well on Spotify and Apple. We appreciate you folks as always. All right, we're going to dive in. Scott, I wanted to start kind of by taking a big lens look at this. And I've been thinking about this overnight and, thinking about the excitement in that stadium. I would never have, anything other than a feeling of affinity for IU football, but I've always been a little bit afraid to like fully embrace the idea that IU football is going to go out and absolutely just go nuts on a highly ranked opponent. And I remember, I predicted Indiana was going to win this game by 13 points. And I felt pretty optimistic because we'd looked at Illinois over the course of the spring and summer. We talked about this quite a bit. We were like, is Illinois that good? I think they're a good team. I think they're a top 25 caliber team from a talent perspective. They were 10-2 last year. And even though I don't think that their resume necessarily bore that much, of a support, if you really looked at it closely, the reality is that's a good team. Brett Bielema has built a good program there. So even thinking Indiana was about a 2-touchdown favorite going into the game, I was a little bit not nervous, but I'm always in this mode with IU football, and I'm gradually being coaxed out of it, where you always assume that the worst is going to happen, that the big lights are going to come on, and it's going to be rough. It's going to be a tough game. We saw that in that Michigan game last year at home.
Right.
This game, I was a little bit nervous because Illinois clearly had weapons, and you can talk yourself into thinking, especially as a longtime IU fan, gosh, maybe this isn't going to go for us the way we want it to because it has gone for us the way we wanted to so rarely in history. This team, this coaching staff have created such a fundamentally different world for IU football than we've ever remembered. And to watch IU go out there and just from the moment that the game started, once they got a little bit of a handle on it, culminating in that block punt by D'Angelo Pons, to watch IU just grind Illinois into a paste, and to watch the Memorial Stadium crowd channel that level of energy and emotion. And it wasn't a nervous energy or emotion. It was a confident, angry emotion. It was so soul cleansing, and it was so exciting to be a part of that. And we'll talk about all of the individual elements of this game, but to watch Indiana go out and execute to this level against a top 10 team, to, as Caleb Boggs note, outrush Illinois 312-2, another game where I moved further down the bleachers than Illinois ran the ball. It was, as Matt Uhl just put it, catharsis. It was the feeling you got leaving the stadium, I would argue, was better than the feeling leaving the stadium last year after that Nebraska game. As amazing as that was, and as awesome as that whole experience was with the Nebraska game, Nebraska was a fringe top 25 team. It was the first time we'd experienced that. This felt like professional beatdown, college football style. And to have Indiana be on the beating down side of that was truly soul cleansing.
Agree with all of that. Give me more. It was I was kind of feeling going into this game less about like the hammer dropping, just more thinking back to last year. And it's like, man, are we going to miss those moments? Like the Nebraska game was awesome. The Washington, like I was telling you before, like each one of these games is almost like a snowflake. Like they're awesome in a different way. Like the Maryland game was cool because you felt like that's where it started to happen. But you look back, it's like the Michigan game, and I was just like, that was quite a ride last year. And the concern was just the feeling was like, man, like that you can't go up the mountain again. You can't just it's over. Like now it's just going to be grinds and tough games, and maybe we lose one and win one. And then to have this where it's just like, it's like the Nebraska game on steroids, just an insane, we're sitting there. I'm with my wife and my son, both my boys. Like my son's loving it. I'm like, and I keep thinking in my head, like, this is what makes memories. Like, this is what makes fans. This is what makes donors for years to coming. This is everything you want. And after, we're up like 21-0, let's look at my wife and we're just like, dude, we've had season tickets since 2009. Like we've been coming here. Like at one point I'm like, I remember the season we played South Carolina State, and that was the only game we won, and we were 1-11. And it's like it's like I cannot believe this is my stadium, this is my team, and you're watching touchdowns, and it's like I'm seeing people just these like looks of disbelief, and it's amazing. It was just an awesome experience. And what's cool is like we had a lot of these last year. We were saying the same thing. And it felt like, all right, well, last year was just a comet. Like that's just a once in a lifetime experience. It's like what was different about this is like, oh no, that wasn't. There's a feeling after this game where it's like that wasn't just a comet or a fun, great season. Like this could be the new normal. I mean, not kicking the living shit out of top 10 teams at all times, but I mean this idea of confidence. And the last thing I will say is there is this moment after halftime where the team came out and they all lined up, and there's coach is blowing the whistle. They run to half field. They all do it again, come back and forth. And Marcia just kind of looks at me. She's like, "Have we ever done that?" Like I just remember people coming out and just kind of milling around and like doing stuff, and like we look like it looks like there's leadership, like someone's running the ship, and it just you kind of had this feel like this really feels like not just replicatable, but like this. Under Signetti, this is the way things are going to be moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I was watching Todd McShay's podcast this morning because I've been trying to just bathe in as much of the national commentary on this. It's been delightful. Actually, Todd was kind of critical of IU last year. It was interesting hearing him trying to break down what he was doing with this game and how he was going to perceive it. And he made a really interesting comment or a series of comments about how the talent that Indiana has on the field, like the actual like star level talent, it's not at Ohio State level or at Alabama level or at LSU level. It's not even really at like USC level. And I mean, you just look at the rankings, the recruiting rankings, and that's true. And yet, he said over and over again, what makes Signetti and his staff so special is how hyper efficient they are at maximizing every play, maximizing the blocking schemes, maximizing the way that they approach the game. They give you so little as an opponent, and they make you either over physical them, which is what happened, frankly, last year in the Ohio State game. It's what happened in the Notre Dame game. There's sometimes when that's the thing about football at the college level. Sometimes that's an immovable object.
Right.
But this game against a team that I think if you lined them up from a star perspective, Illinois was the more talented team. Illinois looked like they had no answers. Brett Bielema said in his postgame, they had no answers. And that goes right back to what you were talking about. There is a cold efficiency in the way that IU under Signetti approaches things. People laugh about Signetti being up by 50 points and looking like, someone just stole his dog while his team allowed a touchdown. I mean, that mentality, I think, is something that you can take for granted in college football. And certainly it's something that we haven't really had in Indiana. I mean, you kind of got there a little bit in parts of the Mallory era, but that was 2 generations ago. Like very few people really remember that unless you've been around for a long time. It's what made Saban's teams at Alabama so great. It's what's made so many programs be able to maintain a level of greatness. It's an expectation of excellence, and it's the desire on the part of the players to go out and execute on a regular basis, on a every down basis. And it's why when you watch what's happened over the first 3 weeks, it's been fun watching this team blossom the way last year's team blossomed. Last year came out of nowhere.
Right.
And I don't think anybody could have predicted in the IU fan base that it was going to go that way. But we talked about this last week. Like last year's team took a while to grow in. And we, on the show on Friday, we talked about how that Nebraska game was really the full awakening of what you had. This year's team is more talented. They've got a more mobile quarterback who is incredibly efficient, incredibly focused, incredibly accurate. They have the stable of running backs, the likes of which I don't think we've seen at IU. And that's not to take anything away from last year, because like Justice Ellison was a great running back to have. But, you go down the line and it's not a perfect team from a talent perspective, but this is a team that, again, has bought in and has figured out how to play with each other and for each other. And that is incredibly exciting to see. And it's, as an IU fan, it's something that you've seen Ohio State do on a regular basis. It's something you've seen Michigan do on a less regular basis, but still there. And to watch Indiana emerge from this game with this type of a beatdown on their resume now and realize that this is the process. It's not a fluke. This is
Well,
what
and this is in the
yeah.
post game. Riley Nowakowski was interviewed, and he was talking about how he took his visit the week of the Notre Dame game. And of course, it's college football playoff, but he was like, I was just, and this guy's coming from Wisconsin. So it's not like he's coming from a program that should have most of their stuff together. And he was saying, like, I was blown away by how much everyone was bought in. Like, everyone was working hard. Everyone was, taking every single moment. He was saying, what I love too is the practices aren't long. Like, it's not 2.5, 3.5 hour practice. Like, it's very much like an hour 45 practice. Like, we get in, we get out. They treat us like men, and but we get it done. He's like, but everybody up and down the board was just focused and trying to get stuff done, which was awesome. The thing that was interesting to me last night, talking to a couple people going into this game, we were discussing, last year. One of the things that was interesting about last year is that it felt like Signetti coached a certain way most of the year, and then against Ohio State and Notre Dame, maybe changed his tune a little bit, or coached like a little bit tentative. And I had thoughts about it. We were talking about it. Like, that was like, I hope that doesn't happen today. And my thing was like, the lights are bright. It's like, this is also Signetti's first year at this level. I mean, he's been at JMU, but like, the lights get really bright. Maybe he learned from this. And what I thought was interesting, bringing it back to last night's game, is you have the punt blocked by Pons, but you have a 3 and out, and then I think there's one more 3 and out, and like the next drive, it's like they get to a 4th and 1, and Signetti sends out the punt team. And at the time, I make a note. I'm like, man, I don't like this punt. Like, this just does not feel. This feels like coaching tentative. And I don't know what would have happened, but Bielema calls a timeout, and then it's like Signetti was Superman and went into the coaching staff, went into the phone booth, came out, and it's like all of a sudden he's Signetti again, where he sends the punt team out. It's like, nah, forget that. Brings them back in. They punch the ball in, and it's like literally from that moment on, it was game over, because the game was 7-7, and then it was just, that was the end of the game. And I wonder if Bielema doesn't call the timeout, does Signetti still do the switch? Like, I don't know, but it felt like at that moment, like the flip was switched, and it's like, oh no, Signetti he's back. We have the cockiness, and this team is ready to just blow the doors off.
Well, the reason that Bielema called the timeout was Indiana had clearly sent a fake punt personnel unit out there. I mean, like, Nowakowski was out there. I think EJ Williams was out there. It's like, okay, that looks suspicious. So he almost psyched Bielema into taking the timeout. Then they send the punt team out, and then they call them back out. I mean, there was clearly some, we're going to screw around with the brain a little bit here.
I know.
Then, but the end result, I think you bring up a great point. Indiana being able to physically impose on Illinois in that moment essentially broke the spine of Illinois. And from that point forward, Illinois offered almost no resistance. And we're going to dive into those numbers a bit. But one last thing I wanted to get to, Matthew Coughlin earlier had a great comment here. I knew intellectually this team could be better than last year, but I didn't really believe it until last night.
I agree with that 100%.
It's a great point, because again, as IU fans, as IU football fans, and for those of you who are brand new IU football fans, welcome. You have no idea what you've missed.
No, but you should have, like, you don't want to know what you missed.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Welcome, enjoy it.
So, so much of this is you have to trick your brain into thinking this is a legitimately good football team. This is a football team that belongs at the table. And the first 3 weeks are tough because you're playing against, non-power competition. You're not opening up your full playbook. We talked about that over and over again. It's like you haven't seen very much out of this defense. People are like, why aren't they sacking the quarterback? Why aren't they doing more pass rushing? And it all adds up to these sorts of games. And I know that, having heard over the course of the summer, Curt Signetti's been confident about his team's ability to win this particular game. And I think the thing to keep in mind is that Indiana winning this game not only announces them as a contender for the college football playoff, but I think we need to be careful. And some people have already noted this in the comments. This didn't mean Illinois wasn't a good team.
Right.
It means Indiana's a really good team. And that, I think, is just something that you need to keep in mind as we move forward. Your success as a barometer does not need to lower the success of your opposition. And ultimately, Illinois was 10-2 for a reason last year. Indiana was 11-2 for a reason last
Right.
year. Indiana's that good again. And I think that what we're seeing now is that start to unfold. And I'm really excited to watch what happens as we move forward. So,
Before we dig into all of the stats, one
yes.
thing that maybe people didn't notice that happened last night that I noticed that might be a Memorial Stadium first, or it's one of only the couple of times it's happened. Second quarter, out of the 2-minute timeout, they finish off by playing "Living on a Prayer." They stop the song. The student section like continues singing along. By the way, Jeremy Gray, if you're listening, maybe that song you go third to fourth quarter, people sing along. But like, I mean, the crowd is belting it out, just going nuts to the point that Mendoza and the line lines up on the far side away from the students. Three of the linemen stand up and like do the like like quiet the crowd. Like, Galen, when was the last time we had to quiet our own crowd on offense?
Wow.
Because like, and it wasn't like we didn't know what was going on. It's just like we are so pumped up. We're singing the song. And it's like, I don't ever remember seeing our team be like, shh, quiet down. We're trying to score again. Like, that just hasn't happened before.
It's pretty wild. It's one of those things that, first of all, I thought Mr. Brightside was a great third to fourth quarter song yesterday.
Yeah.
That seemed to fire everybody up. Everybody was singing in my section. But no, you're right. I mean, shout out to the crowd too. I mean, as much as people were questioning the crowd attendance in the first 3 games, everybody showed up and did what they needed to do in the stands. The place was as electric as I remember that Michigan game being.
And we bought a lot of Illinois tickets. I was saying this. I've never seen a Big Ten game with that few Big Ten visiting fans.
Yeah. I mean,
You looked over to where the visiting section was, and it's like they're either wearing blue or there's no orange over there. I mean, there was like no Illinois fans.
And
there.
from my side over in section 11, you could see some stuff sprinkled in, a couple of orange, but it looked very red.
Yeah.
And it was very loud. And it was an absolute level of Memorial Stadium, another level unlocked. My brother-in-law was with me for the first time in Memorial Stadium in like 6 or 7 years yesterday. He was
like, right? Galen, did you take me to Bloomington or where are we?
That's exactly how the conversation went. He walked up the tunnel, and the kick got delayed. And
Right.
so we walked in and there were still like 27 minutes left until kick. And he was just like, what is this? Like, and the whole game just keeps looking over and be like, man, this is awesome. Like, I can't believe this is Memorial Stadium. And it's, again, I think what we're watching is, a fully woken up Indiana fan base and the student section and everybody, just one of those culminations of a hungry group of people who are really embracing what Indiana's doing and a team that's executing at a level that we haven't seen. There was a stat this morning on CBS Sportsline. This is now the top 2 points scored for Indiana football through the first 4 games in the history of the whole program. That last year is now second. This year is first in points scored through first 4 games. The transformation we're witnessing is just incredible. It fills my soul. It's awesome.
Well, and we will miss crazy stats because there's just too many that have been out there. Yeah, I saw that from Jay. It's a great comment. But it's like this was the largest victory over a top 10 team in the Big Ten ever. Like not just in the last 10 years, not excluding Ohio State, Michigan. Like, we have something that nobody else in the Big Ten has over a top 10 team.
Yeah. Indiana has that. Anyway, let's dive into the statistics. And I think it's one of those things where you could almost
we could do a whole series on just
do a whole thing on just that. I mean, we do need to go to recite the drives, here in a second.
Oh, I got so many people like, we got to see that. We got to see it. A lot of
I want to give, first of all, the what I think are the most impressive statistics from this game. So I think we could have a poll, actually. What is the most of the most impressive statistics? So I'm going to give some possibilities.
And what's funny is the score wouldn't even be in the top 5.
Right,
which is
right. Score, a 53-point win feels pedestrian. So here's what we've got. First downs. Indiana had 31. Illinois had 9 for the game. Third down efficiency. Indiana 8 for 11. Illinois 1 for 10. Total yards in this game. Indiana had 579 total yards. Illinois had 161 total yards. Rushing yards, Indiana 312, Illinois 2.
And I
Illinois,
was listening to you and Rhett's preview, and one of the things you were talking about was rushing yards. It was like Indiana's averaging like 300 a game. You're like, well, that can't continue, or something like that.
right.
Like, well, maybe it can.
The fourth straight game where
Right.
Indiana has rushed for 300 more yards. We did find out that in 2001, Indiana rushed for 300 yards in 3 straight games. I don't know if it's ever happened in 4. I got to do some digging on that. Yards per rush. Indiana 6.4 yards per rush. Illinois 0.1 yards per rush. They had 20 attempts for 2 yards. And I think maybe the most impressive of all of these, time of possession. Indiana had the ball for 39 minutes and 42 seconds. Illinois had the ball for 20 minutes and 18 seconds. Almost a 2-to-1 margin on time of possession. And, what's fascinating about this is, like, Indiana, as Terry just pointed out, Indiana dropped 2 pick sixes in this game. It could have been worse.
Yeah.
You throw in the block punt. I don't know what stands out to you the most in that statistical column, Scott. What resonated with you the most out of all of those?
Well, it has to be the rushing. Like, the rushing for 2 yards is just nuts. I mean, the one that I take away is that I don't know how often this happens, but Illinois punted 9 times for 384 yards. So they doubled up the amount of yards they had in the game on offense with their punting. That's like, they only had 161 total yards. They had 384 yards just in punting. That's nuts. I also, the other one that I think is, for where's the red, just our efficiency in the red zone was something we were concerned about coming into the game. You and Taylor talked about it. Like, that's something that just needs to be thought of. And you have to turn those red zones into touchdowns. Didn't have any field goals this game. Like, you just kept punching the ball in. You had no trouble. I would also 7 sacks.
7
was nuts. And you're right. Like, that's the thing with this game, is it easily could have been an 80-pointer because you had 2 pick sixes. I mean, it was just, those were wide open. Like, those were, you walked in there. So yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah. You look at the individual statistics and they're just as impressive, sometimes because of one person and sometimes because of the way the group contributed. Fernando Mendoza is now the Heisman favorite, folks. He is plus 800 in the Heisman.
Can I do a quick Mendoza thing real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
In this game, he's 21 of 23 for 267 yards and 5 touchdowns. In the last 2 games, because against Indiana State, he was 19 for 20 for 270 and 5 touchdowns. That means in the last 2 games, he's 40 for 43 for 537 yards for 10 touchdowns. But 2 things of note. One is that those 2 games you have to take into consideration. Like, one was against subpar competition, and the other game was Indiana State. There you go. But the other thing is that it was basically 1 game, because against Indiana State, he only played a half. Against Illinois, he played like a half and 1 drive or 2 drives in the second quarter. So you're talking basically 1 game. He went 40 for 43, 537 yards and 10 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It's a testament to not just his talent, but how well Kurt Signetti, Mike Shanahan, the offensive staff have done putting Fernando Mendoza in a position to succeed. One of the things that we heard about, I mean, Curtis Rourke was incredible last year, even more so when you consider all the injuries that he dealt with. What we talked about with Fernando Mendoza was, he's clearly a guy who's got mobility in a way that Rourke didn't. One of the things that Rhett Lewis and I talked about on the podcast on Friday was, this is a guy who is still relatively young compared to Curtis Rourke. Rourke was like 24 years old. Fernando Mendoza is still learning the game. And we've heard Kurt Signetti talk a couple of times now about how quickly Fernando Mendoza is picking up the offense, how quickly he is adapting to the environment, and how much he wants to be great, how much he wants to be a guy that plays on Sundays moving forward. To throw 5 touchdowns with a 90+% completion percentage against the number 9 team in the country. And yes, I know they were missing Xavier Scott. They lost another cornerback or a safety early on in the game due to a targeting call where he got thrown out of the game. There's always these excuses and caveats thrown out about, if they've been going against regular competition. How many times have we seen quarterbacks going up against depleted secondaries not have numbers like that.
Right.
And then you think about the decision making that Mendoza had throughout the course of the game. That EJ Williams touchdown. I mean, that will be on every highlight reel that we see for Fernando Mendoza for the end of time, and it should be an incredible pass. Only a place where EJ Williams could have caught it, and really, another straw that broke the Illini's back. But his ability to figure out exactly where the ball should go and put it there, and to do so with zip and accuracy, is really getting exciting. And what it's done, and where I think it's really even more exciting is he's doing this with great weapons. But if you think about Omar Cooper Jr. in particular, and the leap that Omar Cooper Jr. has taken in terms of his output from last year to this year, there were some concerns about why Omar Cooper Jr. wasn't targeted more last year. But I think Omar Cooper has gotten better this year. Like, he looks so much more athletic. He looks so much more dialed in. To me, the fulcrum point play on offense, other than that punt, that fake punt that they ended up not a fake punt, but you know what I mean? They're going for it on fourth down.
Right.
I believe the next play on the drive, where I was watching it, they line up Cooper in the slot, and you could tell they were going to have him on a post over the middle where he was going to be able to catch it and essentially be in one-on-one. And that's exactly what happened. But it wasn't just that he caught that. It's the athletic effort afterwards.
Yeah, he got like 10 to 15 more yards just not giving up.
And then the touchdown on the very next play,
right,
where he just catches the ball on the sideline and finds a hole on the sideline and gets the ball over the pylon. Like, Mendoza knows he's got all of these pieces, and he's got all these targets, like throwing to Roman Hemby out of the backfield. EJ Williams sprinkling some things in. Only 5 guys caught passes for Indiana last night. And the fact you've got Elijah Surratt, this great, catching and blocking wide receiver, there's such potential there that we haven't really unlocked yet with this offense. We're still just seeing bits and pieces of. Indiana didn't even need to pull the whole playbook out for the receiving core last night because the running game was so dominant.
So 2 things. One, just a great comment there. The wide receiving blocking was elite last night. I went back and watched most of the game this morning. They were highlighting it on NBC, where Omar Cooper Jr. was just hitting great blocks. He was moving and then hitting blocks. But I want to play. We're going to try some video stuff here. I want to play one video from the game because it was funny. The broadcast was talking about, man, we haven't seen Gabe Atkiss at all today. And then just watch this video if you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify. This is like third quarter. This is how good the RPO is going for Mendoza right now, because they're literally highlighting Gabe Atkiss. They circle him, and then if you watch just him, he's frozen. Like, he doesn't move, and it leads to a big run. So
Illinois' rush has not been a factor. Gabe Atkiss is one of the best players in the Big Ten, and we haven't even said his name.
They're going to circle Gabe Atkiss. Just watch him.
Not been able to get anything going in this game so far. Take it down at 4, run up the middle, block has some space.
Yep.
And so if you weren't watching this live, like, he just literally stood there as if like you were playing him on defense and didn't move your controller. And it's like, but it was because of Mendoza's RPO. Like, his RPO has gotten so good that he was just frozen and didn't know. He's like watching Mendoza, I think it was Hemby, and just Hemby ran right by him.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable.
Well, and look, we saw a lot of that with Curtis Rourke last year, and Indiana has done a great job with the RPOs of putting the decision-making in the quarterback's hands,
right,
and training them about what they need to do. And it's so effective when you know what you're doing and you're getting good blocking. Now, I don't know that Indiana's blocking in the interior offensive line was where they'd want it to be. Where they were finding a lot of success was putting a receiver in motion. Omar Cooper had a great spring block, I think it might have been Kalon Black on his touchdown. So Indiana's really kind of running in the C gaps. It feels like they're running more outside because they're finding more success there. And that was kind of the problem in that Old Dominion game, was that they were really trying to force it down the middle. They're finding success now by moving it around. And that's the kind of thing that a great coaching staff does, but they have to have players that can execute it. And that's really been, the thing I've gotten the most excited about over these first 4 weeks is we keep seeing this offense evolve. We keep seeing this different variety of plays that are out there. And you just got guys that are incredibly hard runners. I mean, Roman Hemby, I went back and watched highlights this morning. Hemby just relishes putting his shoulder into a guy and trucking him to the field while he's carrying the ball. Kalon Black averaged, both Kalon Black and Kobe Martin averaged basically 9 yards a carry last night. And Black got to show some speed that he normally doesn't get to show. Kobe Martin comes in as the fourth string running back. I heard Curt Signetti talking about this in the post-game radio, and he's like, talk about a guy whose life has changed over the last 2 weeks. He goes from being the fourth stringer who probably can't get on the field to the guy that leads the team in rushing and scores 2 touchdowns against the number 9 team in the country.
Well, and this is why you tell everyone should be working hard, and going, and the thing is, this is, I'll say this, it's a credit to the coaching staff and the players and like everything. Like a lot of those runs, the guys are barely touched. I mean, the holes are open. And I'll say this too, for Mendoza, a lot of his throws, like the one of the Surratt touchdowns in the end zone, Surratt's wide open. I mean, like Mendoza's putting the ball on a dime, but for as great as his numbers were last night, and the 5 touchdowns, 40 for 43, a lot of them were, I don't say easy throws, but it's like, again, back to the way this offense is run, it's just slants to Cooper Jr. or Surratt, or, just hitting guys in certain spots. Definitely the Williams touchdown was awesome, but a lot of them, it's not like he was out there making insane throws or putting it in spots where only one guy could catch it. I mean, it's because of the way his offense is. It's like there's just guys who are wide open. Or he passes it to, Omar Cooper Jr. just, 2 yards off the line. It's like, but with the blocking, we're able to make it happen. Or like the Nowakowski, it's like, that's just a nice little dump over the pressure. And then perfectly, the O-line's there to block. And it's like, everyone's benefiting from everybody doing everything at an exceptional level. It's unbelievable. It really is. And I'll say this too. Sorry, I'm just going back to one of your earlier questions. You talk about stats that are unbelievable. Is Galen, how many times have we had games like this, big pressure games in the Big Ten, where we're the clean team? Like Illinois comes out with, false start, a penalty, against Fisher that had to become a two-way because that's what they always do. But it's like we weren't making penalties. We didn't look sloppy. It's just a totally clean game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a testament to Curt Signetti and his staff that they have placed such an emphasis on penalties. It's interesting. You go back last year, Indiana committed 14 penalties in that UCLA game. And from that point forward, they didn't commit more than 5 penalties in a single game the rest of the way. This season,
I guarantee that number was written on the somewhere in Memorial Stadium. Like that number against UCLA was like written. It's like, we are not going to do that again.
Yeah, this season they've committed 3, 4, 6, and now 2 penalties in the 4 games. I think it's a great point, but it goes back to what we talked about at the beginning: the attention to detail,
right,
and the focus on not just doing your job, but knowing how to do your job in those circumstances. It was truly impressive. Scott.
Sorry. And that's the thing. I mean, that's the thing I'll say is like, that's where, you and I always had that concern with like the Allen era, even when things were going well. It's like the team was still really sloppy. Like they were winning, but it's like there was mistakes all over the place. There was never this level to attention to detail. Like everything we're mentioning is like that Nowakowski play sticks in my mind because it's like, that only works because everyone's doing everything perfectly. Like Mendoza reads the blitz, Nowakowski pulls out, and then you have 3 guys blocking. It's just everything's working right.
Yeah. Before we go to break, we need to do recite the drive. So I need the announcement first before we dive into this, because we've actually got 2 separate recite the drives that we need to do here.
All right, so I got to mess it up. I got to name it something wrong. Correct? Is like, this is going to be drive the chart or chart the drive. No, recite the chart. Hey, wait, yeah, I can't say it right anymore. It's no fun. I'll take. Can I have Illinois just for fun?
Yeah. So if you've never, this is a running gag, obviously, that we do, but we've had a lot of seasons where we've had to go back and look, sometimes with dismay, at what's happened within individual games. This is one we will be looking at with joy. So I'm going to give you, these were all of Indiana's drives and what they did. So starting in the first quarter, we have punt, touchdown, punt, touchdown, 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 end of game. Hey, like, I mean, you want to talk, I've never loved the phrase, this team is a wagon. I was like, what the hell does that mean? Well, that's a wagon. That's something that got on the tracks and never stopped rolling once it started rolling, to essentially only have the final gun stop you from scoring touchdowns on your last 10 possessions. That is absolutely wild. And again, it's just a testament to how much Indiana broke the spirit of the Illinois Fighting Illini in this game. And you see that as we recite the drives of Illinois. Scott, I'm going to give that one to you.
So you start with Illinois. We're going to go 5 plays punt, 3 plays punt. You have 3 plays touchdown, which is a broken coverage by D'Angelo Pons. I think he thought there was safety help behind him. 1 play. You take away that 1 play, and this could just be all punts. Anyway, I'm saying the plays because it's also insane the number of plays in these drives. 3 plays punt, 3 plays punt, 4 plays punt, 3 plays punt, 8 plays field goal, with a huge caveat that there was a pick 6 that could have ended, that should have been interception, but whatever. So after halftime, you only have four drives: 3 plays punt, 3 plays punt, 3 plays punt, 5 plays interception. By the way, here's the yardage for these drives. I
was going to go there. Look at the yardage.
The yardage, I'm just going drive to 13-3, 75. Okay, 8-7, 17-3, 47. And then after halftime, 6-1.
Oh, no. -6.
Oh, I'm so right. That's sorry. Sorry. -6, -1, -1. I'm not used to that many hyphens. Sorry. Okay. -6, -1, -1, and then 23 with a drive that ended in interception.
In the entire third quarter, Illinois gained -7 yards. I mean, that is. There's not even words for it. There really are not words for that level of domination. And the fact that it was like a boa constrictor. It got progressively more suffocating on Illinois as the game went along.
So here's a tweet that Adam Rittenberg had at the end of the third quarter that I highlighted. At the end of 3 quarters, Indiana holds a 49-10 edge in points, 423, 129 edge in yards. It's held Illinois to -7 net rushing yards. As dominant a performance as any we've seen in the young college football season. Except for, of course, probably some SEC team, but yeah.
Anyway, that was Recite the Drives, sponsored by nobody, but if you'd like to sponsor it, please let us know. We'd love to throw that in for you.
Yeah, maybe a belt company.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about a few other items from the game day experience and also talk about Indiana on the national stage and where they should land in the polls. We're kind of waiting for the polls to come out. I don't know if they'll have any out before we finish the show, but we'll take a break, come back, talk about all that. This is CrimsonCast. We'll be back right after this.
If you're not listening to Sideline Stories with Trisha Whitaker and Sydney Parrish, you're missing great stories like this.
When you interviewed Signetti, did you know that he was the type of character that he is and so outspoken and just like what we call a soundbite machine?
No, not really, but I did realize in the first phone conversation how he was just so authentic. Literally at the end of the conversation, I'll never forget it. And I thought about Coach Knight a little bbit because I'd heard that people asked Coach Knight when he took the Indiana job and they'd say, "Why did you go to Indiana?" And he said, "Because I could win there." So I'm on the phone with Coach Sig, and at the end, I said, "Do you think you can win here?" And he said, "Scott, let me just tell you this. If I have average resources, I will win. Trust me." I remember thinking, I believe it. I really did. I remember hanging up, and I called President Whitten. I said, "Hey, I just finished up with Coach Signetti," and I said, "Hey, I think he's different."
Sideline Stories is part of the Back Home Network. Subscribe on YouTube and Spotify.
Welcome back to Crimson Cast live here on Sunday, September 21st. Indiana is 4-0. They defeat the 9th-ranked Illinois Fighting Illini 63-10. At Memorial Stadium. And, Scott, I do want to talk briefly about the atmosphere in the stadium because it was such an amazing backdrop, an amazing video board show. The music hit right. The on-field promotions were all excellent. The towels were out and in force, and people were really getting into it. It's just, if you haven't been back to Memorial Stadium yet, if you've been to IU football games before, whether you're a fan, like a hardcore fan or a casual fan, one of my big goals right now is as many people as can come back and experience what a home game feels like. I don't know if there'll be another one this year that'll have quite the energy that one did because of the circumstances, the night game,
right,
the 2 ranked teams. But it was a program record, a stadium record for attendance. Over 56,000 people in the stadium, which I didn't know was possible. I thought the capacity was just shy of 53,000, but they figured out a way.
Right.
And it was about as I mean, you can go to different stadiums and experience different things, but that's about as good as it can get in Memorial Stadium, just the whole thing. I was so impressed with the crowd, but I was also just so impressed with the overall vibe that we heard in there. It gave me a feeling of life that only those types of gatherings with that many people can really do.
Something we talked to about, we had Jeremy Gray on before the season, and he talked about how, last year things kind of snuck up on them, and it's like they weren't maybe fully prepared for sellouts every game. And they were going into this season, planning on, we're being prepared for 55,000 every game. They were, and it was. And like, that's something that I used to joke about. And it really was a real thing that you would have the games against Ohio State or Michigan when the place was mostly full. And it was really not a great experience. Like, it's like everything, there was long lines. It was tough to get around. It was tough to do things. Last night was not like that. Like, and I would tell people that if you're used to that experience, like the upgrades around Memorial Stadium have been unbelievable and vast. And we went out during timeouts. We, young kids were kind of milling out, getting drinks, stuff like that. You were able to get a drink and get back to your seat. It wasn't, we walked around between the first and the second quarter. We had heard there was like trident shaped pretzels that my son really wanted to find. I think they were sold out. But we were able to go and get a pretzel and come back. And like, that would have been 5 years ago. It's like, no way, I'm not leaving my seat. Traffic wasn't bad getting in. Traffic wasn't bad getting out. Getting in and out of the stadium wasn't tough. You're able to get around. The restrooms were used. Like, it really is. I was kind of like, wow, I'm impressed by my own stadium and how well it was able to handle it. And then, we've joked on this podcast before about, improvements we would make, or, you increase the size or whatever. Like, it's a great stadium right now. Like, the size is perfect. The sound is great. The way it fills in was awesome. I was really happy to see them trying something a little different for halftime to try, the drone show was a cool idea, although it was funny. They come out and like both my boys are super excited. And then it's like the first thing is like Merchants Bank. Everybody's like, wow. No offense to Merchants Bank. And then it's like, all right, but and then it was on there for a while. My son's like, that would suck if that's all they do. And I'm like, yeah, that would not be great. And then it's like the next thing they do is the Merchants Bank frog. And it's like, they really better do something else besides just that. But I have a couple. I'm like media guy here today. I have a couple of pictures from the drone show.
Brought his own material. This is very unusual for me.
This is how excited I am. I'm actually going to start preparing for this show. 20 years in, it's new stuff. Here is the sample gates in the drone show. And then here was Hoosier the Bison. It's not I have a video. It's a little easier to see, but like Hoosier the Bison waving a towel. It was great. They brought Hoosier's entrance. This time he comes in on Metallica. That hypes up the crowd. Again, another great reason to have a mascot. It was awesome, man. It was an experience. And what's so great, again, is like last year, I had those moments where it's like at the end of the year, it's like, man, well, we're never really going to be able to recapture what that felt like at the Washington game or the Michigan game. Like, man, that was a shooting star. It's like, no, it was recaptured and it was awesome. And it was great. I mean, that was an epic night. And I will say, even just magical, like the rain starts hitting. So me and the boys and Marcy kind of go into the concourse just a little bit to chill out while the rain's going on before we come back out. And at least on our side, on the I guess the north side, the east side, the side with the press box, the band, like half the band was just in the concourse playing the fight song. And like there was the baton girl, like in the flag. It's like, what is going on? Like, this is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was just a great, and the whole day was awesome. I mean, I got out to the tailgate lots at 11:30,
Yeah.
and surprised the parking was still open already. It was supposed to open at noon. It was already open when we got there. So, but the lots filled quickly. It was a really good vibe. Got to bounce around to a bunch of people's tailgates. Got to meet a bunch of people in the parking lot. It was just a really good day. It was hot, but it wasn't too hot. And there were just a ton of people that were back, ton of people that were there that were excited, and the Illinois fans were mostly well behaved.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a bad thing all the way around. And so, yeah, I was so thrilled that the whole night came together. And I don't know that we'll ever be able to fully comprehend the beatdown Indiana put on Illinois. That's a historic beatdown. You mentioned it, largest win by a Big Ten team against the top 10 team. Yes, it's Big Ten on Big Ten crime in this case, but still, to have that margin of victory against a team that all of the voters and all the pundits were like, this is a legitimate top 10 team. But then to add all of the other elements to
and
it.
also the Bielema factor, the guy who dropped 80 on us or whatever.
Absolutely. I mean, we were talking about that early. I think Mike Schumann or Jim Coyle or somebody might have had that tweet early, but I remembered it. I mean, that's the thing with that win. It's a different team that Bielema is coaching, but just the turnabout from a psychological perspective,
Right.
where you put a 63-10 pounding and that statistical domination on a ranked team, and you're like, that's what people used to do to us, like
Right.
on the reg. That was the Indiana football experience that was always lurking behind the corner. If it wasn't that, I remember, what was it, 1999? Indiana goes to Wisconsin again, different coaching staff. Obviously, it was Barry Alvarez at that point, and I think we lost like 62-3 or 59-0.
Right.
Happened against Iowa, in one of those seasons, and like that kind of game was just something that got metered out to Indiana, not something that Indiana was metering out to good teams, not to the dregs, but to good teams.
Well, and
So,
the thing with last night too is, I mean, and we've been on the Indiana side of this too often, is it wasn't just that like one thing was clicking, where it's like Mendoza, passing game was great, and like we're torching their defense, and that's all that could happen. Like that Michigan game you and I talked about with Denard Robinson, where like we scored a bunch, they scored a bunch, and we lost like 43-38 or something. Like, the game we both thought went to overtime that didn't.
right.
Last night, it's like, no, like also on defense, we were just up there all the time. Our defensive line is just driving everything. We're just driving into them. It's like, it wasn't just that we were running the ball on them or passing the ball. Our defense was stuffing them. Like, all factors were just in alignment. And that's what was so cool, because we've had games where we've played really well in one area where we're scoring a bunch, like in the Kevin Wilson time, but then our defense is just giving up points. Like, it's just this boat race that never ends. This was complete domination on all sides.
It's yeah, and I mean, just everything that happened on the video screen and throughout the course of the game just built. A big shout out to Mike Kadick, Indiana center for the last 6 years. Got to hang out with him and his parents at the upstairs pub on Friday. Kadick down in the box on the field, and it was one of those. I know there's clips on social media of him, pounding the beer and taking his shirt off. It was one of those you really had to be there to fully embrace it. And unfortunately, I think it happened after the rain started, so you'd had some people leave the stadium. The people that stayed, those of us who were like, we're going to soak in every second of Indiana winning this game by 53 points, even if it's in the rain. The rain wasn't that bad. It was like the Shawshank Redemption.
All right.
It was a cleansing rain more than anything else. But that Kadick moment, just kind of like, that was so emblematic of the joy and the dominance that Indiana put on that whole game. And it was just,
we've been looking for a third to fourth quarter thing, maybe jump around. It's like, all right, Kadick, we're going to need you 8 times a year, and you're going to have to pound 8 beers a year.
I'm sure he would not have a problem with doing that.
We have a sponsor. It's, the Hoosier Ale or something. We sponsor it.
The what? The Hoosier Game Day Lager.
Hoosier Game Day Lager. Yeah.
Hoosier Ale. I like that. We're Hoosier Oktoberfest coming soon. That's hilarious. But anyway, we wanted to talk about the broader picture of Indiana and where they sit right now.
Well, because don't forget, Illinois is not good. Like, let's start that narrative now. Like, Illinois is maybe not a great team.
It's funny.
They're not ranked in the top 10 anymore.
I was texting with my buddy Sam Krumoff. We have this text thread, him, me, Nick Lalonde, and I think I texted this to them on like Tuesday. I was like, we really need to start a campaign on social media before the game starts. Can we all agree that Illinois is actually good? Can we get you on record?
We have them on record. Like, game day had picks. Everybody but Pat McAfee picked Illinois. Like, people are on record.
Yes. So I think if you thought Illinois was that good, great. You're fine. But as Mesro just pointed out, the goalposts can't be on wheels. Like, we can't keep moving the goalposts every time Indiana wins a big game against an opponent. And I always disagreed with the way that got handled last year with Nebraska and Washington. Those were pretty good teams who did not come up with victories, and that's fine. But the idea that Indiana played absolutely nobody was garbage. It's still garbage. I still hear people recycling that garbage line. You cannot make that claim here with Illinois. This was a team everybody thought was good all spring, all summer, and for the first 3 weeks of the season.
Brought back all their guys, had so much returning.
You can miss me with that if that's the argument you're going to make. Now, as far as where Indiana's at on the national level, I wanted to show a couple of things. So first of all, Andy Staples has his most recent college football playoff bracketology. And of course, I will readily acknowledge that college football playoff bracketology at this time of year is largely pointless. But if you look at it right now, Indiana is third because they would be the Big Ten champ. Or excuse me, not the Big Ten champ. They would be, I guess, in the Big Ten title game. They would be number 2 in the Big Ten. Number 3 overall, because as you'll recall, there is no seeding based upon the conference champs getting the top 4 buys. So Andy Staples right now would have Indiana 3rd, Ohio State 1st, Miami 2nd, Indiana 3rd, Georgia 4th. This is based on resume. Penn State in the college football playoff as well in this lineup, Oregon in it as well. I like that. That's good. Indiana's obviously got a lot of work to do. But it's interesting because you go to Heather Dinich's bracketology. Heather Dinich, shockingly, does not have Indiana in the college football playoff. She has them as the first team out, which, this is where
because she's like, I read her thing this morning. It's like Texas Tech. Well, they won on the road. Like their big win was on the road. And
but and this is where the circular logic that we keep seeing amongst the college football pundit class, they want so badly for the SEC to have all these dominant teams. So I'll take some of the teams that we're talking about and I'll compare what they've done to what Indiana's done. And I'll just ask you what's better, which one's better. So let's take Oregon, who's a Big Ten team, who I think is very good. Oregon's wins are 69-3 over an Oklahoma State team that looks like it probably has trouble getting out of bed in the morning. A 20-point win at Northwestern, and then they beat a severely overmatched Oregon State team at home last night, 41-7. Is that better collectively than Indiana's resume, which includes a win over an Old Dominion team that beat the crap out of Virginia Tech on their home field, and now a 53-point win over a team that everybody thought was in the playoff and was the number 9 team or better in the country?
Can I do A&M? Like you have A&M who won at home against UTSA, San Antonio, Texas San Antonio, won at home against Utah State, and then they won at Notre Dame, a team that maybe shouldn't be ranked or it is ranked, but like beat them by 1 point. How is that better?
Heather has Tennessee ahead of Indiana. Tennessee's resume right now, they have a neutral site win against a Syracuse team that, to their credit, just beat Clemson at Clemson. However, I'll note,
is Clemson good?
Sucks. Clemson is bad. The idea that Clemson's a good team is propping up so much of this garbage at the top of people's projections. So they have a 19-point win against Syracuse on a neutral field. Good for them. Good win. They have an FCS victory. They have a loss at home to Georgia. Not a win. Not a win. Not a win. A loss at home to Georgia. And then they just beat UAB, who's coached by Trent Dilfer, 56-24. Is that better than what Indiana's done this season? I would say no. You can go down the list, and you can keep doing this if you want to. Hold on. I think at this point, you can make the argument that Georgia winning at Tennessee is a better, like you put that together with the other stuff they've done. I think you can make an argument that that's a better win all told, although it's not nearly as impressive a win as what Indiana had. But I could get maybe the argument. I could maybe accept if you really, really love Notre Dame and really think Notre Dame's a top 10 team, despite the fact that Notre Dame has 1 win on the season and they let Purdue score 30 on them yesterday. 30 points for Purdue. This is Purdue we're talking about, right? If you really think Notre Dame's that good and you're giving Miami that much credit for beating them at home by 3, and you look at the rest of what Miami's done, and it's an F. And you people know me. I taught at Miami. Miami's my second team in college football. This is not to take anything away from Miami, but they are living off of a 3-point win at home against Notre Dame, who has 1 win and let Purdue score 30 on them. An FCS victory, a win against South Florida, which is fine. I think South Florida has shown that they're fairly good, except South Florida's best win is against Florida, who Miami also beat. And what is Florida's record right now, Scott? What is Florida's record right now? Can you check?
Are they 1-2?
Are they 1-2?
I'm actually not sure.
I mean, Florida right now on the season, a team that started the season ranked, and everybody, much like Illinois and South Carolina, they've beaten LIU, Long Island University, 55-0. They've lost at home to USF. They lost at LSU. They've now lost at Miami. They're 1-3, just like Clemson. These are the wins.
Well,
that are
and
being hold on. These are the wins that are being pointed to prop up most of these teams right now. It's amazing the absolute lack of intellectual honesty or thought that's being put into this, other than, well, we just think that this is how it should be. It's amazing to watch it happen again.
It is. And so I'm going to take the FEI rankings, which is just one data set, but just a place that ranks, college football teams. And it is funny how much people fall into this narrative in college football. You don't see this as much in college basketball with Ken Palm and all the rankings, but in college football, it goes into exactly what you said. It's just names. It's like, oh, well, Clemson. I've heard that name before. And for all of the crap Indiana took with their non-conference schedule, it's like, can we see some of this play out? Old Dominion is ranked 71st in the country going into week 4. I mean, it's not great, but guess who they're right above? They're right above Boston College. It's like Michigan State. Oh, they played Boston College. Like, Old Dominion's better. You talk about Oregon schedules. Like, they played Oregon State. Oregon State's 98th in FEI. Like, this is where a little bit of diligence to look at this. It's like, yeah, Indiana State is not great. Kennesaw State's not great. It's like, Old Dominion isn't bad. Like, Old Dominion's 3 spots behind Syracuse. Like, it's not a name you normally hear of, but that doesn't mean these teams aren't good.
Look, let's use ESPN's own metric, FPI. Old Dominion's 56th in FPI. Right. I mean, they're better than you're giving them credit for.
But Galen, but I've heard of Oregon State.
You look at LSU, who I've seen everybody have LSU over Indiana right now. Right now in FPI, the power ranking that ESPN uses, the computer ranking to rank teams, LSU is 19th in FPI. Indiana is 6th. LSU's wins on the season, and Matt Blaska just pointed this out, their wins are at Clemson, which I got to tell you, when Syracuse wins at Clemson, it kind of makes LSU's win at Clemson look slightly less impressive. No offense to Syracuse.
And Syracuse won by more.
Yeah. They beat Florida, who's 1-3, by 10 at home, which, again, I don't look that impressive right now. I'm sorry. So,
and then every other technical school in Louisiana right. Tech and Southeast Louisiana.
Yeah. So
these coaches right. They should have scheduled Dominion.
Dominion. Yes, that's Dominion Tech. So the point is, what's frustrating about all of this is let's just think about what would have happened if 19th ranked Ole Miss, by just whatever, 19th ranked Ole Miss is hosting a top 10 Alabama team and beats them 63-10. They would crown them national champions the next morning.
Yeah.
They would, it would be, oh my God, how amazing is this? Indiana does it, and it's like, well, maybe they're on the last, 1 or 2 spots outside the playoff. This is
right. You can't jump A&M.
Yeah.
Like that's not something you can do. You can't be doing that. No, and it's what's, to me, the cognitive dissonance that's insane is you have, a no-win Notre Dame team going into this week still being ranked, and the logic is, well, you hear the logic of like, well, I still think they're one of the best 25 teams in the country. So even though they, and I know they won this week against a bad Purdue team, but it's like that was the logic. It's like, well, I still think they're one of the best 25 teams, and even though they haven't won a game, I'm going to put them there. But it's like the same logic would be like, I just saw Indiana completely kick the snot out of a top 10 team, maybe one of the most impressive wins we've seen this year. The idea of like, well, we can't put them ahead of teams like LSU and Georgia because they're already up there. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you can make weird, if you can find a way to put Notre Dame still in the top 25, why couldn't Indiana slot in the top 3?
Ultimately, a lot of the problem, it's not just name brand stuff, which it very much is. And I think that's a really good observation on your part. It's also that the assumption is, oh, this team is just physically better than that team. And so if they actually played, this team would beat that team. But then on the flip side, all you hear in college football is the games are the things that matter. The games matter the most. So you have actual results and you want to discount results both directions. Well, that team we think that team's better than that result was, so we're going to rank them higher because, well, despite the result, we think that that's actually better than the team that actually got the results, but we don't think that they're quite as good, even though all of the numbers, all the hard numbers, the statistical numbers that do the analysis indicate that team's actually better than that team that you think is better. And this is where Indiana really does present a problem, not just for what New Life said, which is the brand name is not something that resonates with people. They think that Indiana team can't be that good because they're Indiana and because they don't have a lot of 4 and 5 stars on their roster. But it's also a testament to the coaching staff and the players for executing what the coaching staff is putting out there, because Indiana, as we talked about, may not be as talented as LSU or Ole Miss or Tennessee, but they play in a way that makes them more effective in a lot of these games. And again, we've talked about.
I will say, I think it's where the name brand also hurts us today. Is that Illinois is also not really a name brand in college football. So if that was Michigan in that exact same spot that we beat, Michigan was ranked 9th and we beat them, that would hold water because it's like, oh, I've heard of Michigan. Like that's a real football team. Or even if it was Iowa in that 9th ranked spot, I think the fact that it's Illinois, it's kind of like, oh, well, these are two off the radar Big Ten teams. So they don't really like, I bet a lot of people look at it as not really a top 10 win because it's like Illinois isn't a name I've heard of.
Again,
I'm not saying I agree with that.
I get it. But then you ranked those people. You ranked Nebraska last year.
I know. And then it's like this sport, we're allowed to have new people come in. Like, or is it just going to be the same 7 teams we play every year?
And Brian actually brings up something I was talking to people about yesterday. People that have played kingmakers in the sport for ages don't want to admit they don't really know what they're doing. And ultimately, it's maybe that's a little harsh. And, Ben Portnoy, IU alum, Sports Business Journal, had an interesting column this week talking about the AP poll and what a difficult job that is to vote in. And I understand that. But again, if the job is to rank the top 25, and we know that it matters, we know it matters to the committee, we know it matters to the public perception of teams, and you are a reporter that's doing a job, and if you're the AP that's putting this out, and one of the arguments I heard in favor of why the AP poll should still go on and why you need preseason polls is that it's this long-standing record, 75, 80 years, that gives us an accounting of what's going on. My question is, why not do the AP poll on Monday? If the argument is, well, gosh, as a reporter, I have to go cover this game and I can't watch all of these other things. Brett McMurphy put his top 25 out last night at like 11 o'clock.
USC's game finished at 2:30 a.m. Eastern.
I acknowledge that an average reporter probably can't consume all of that football while also covering a game. Then why are we pushing this out on Sunday?
I
agree. Put it out on Monday. Put it out on Tuesday. Like, take the time to actually evaluate everything. And also, look at statistics. Like, football is weird. Football is not like basketball or baseball, where you don't have the body of statistics to be able to really tell you who is likely the best. And that exists at the NFL level as much as it exists at the college football level. But there are things that you can compare apples to apples on with teams, and they just get ignored when it's not convenient for the narrative, and they get accepted when it's convenient for the narrative. And that is really, I think, frustrating to people who root for teams like Indiana or Vanderbilt or whatever. So it looks like the coaches poll just came out, and Indiana is.
I was going to ask you where you thought we were going to be.
Well, I mean, Indiana should be 3rd in the country right now, in my opinion. They should be 3rd. If they're actually 12th in the coaches poll, that's pretty ridiculous. Brian's saying
so we don't even get in Illinois' spot. Like, that's the thing I don't get is like they were 9th in the they were 8th in the coaches. Let's talk. And then I have 2 things. I have 2 more questions for you before we're done with all this. But let's look this up now. And let's talk about who we should be above.
Let me. I'm grabbing the coaches poll here. Give me just a second.
Because I would have thought we were going to just take Illinois' spot.
Well, one would think, but again, what you're talking about is this bizarre mentality that exists. It's like, well, if they weren't, I mean, we saw this last year. As long as it took for Indiana to break into the top 10 last year, it didn't make any sense when you looked at the actual results. And then the arguments came, well, they haven't beaten anybody, and it's like, well, that's not really what we've seen historically
Like, it doesn't matter for other people. Like, Notre Dame hasn't won a game and they're still ranked.
Right. Well,
going into this week.
I'm still not seeing the link for the coaches poll. I'm sure it's going to pop up here in a second. But if Indiana is really 12th in the coaches poll, that's pretty frustrating because again.
So that would mean we went from 17th to 12th. So we get 5 spots.
A 5-spot jump for beating a top 10 team by 53 points. How? How? Like what? How is that not? How do you not get something else there?
Yeah, what I do like about it, like what's cool is I do love. I mean, I would love to be in the top 5. It would be a really cool thing to be there. There's also a point too where it's like, I mean, we all have just full faith in Coach Sig at this point, but it's like great. Like undervalue us at your peril because all it's going to do is give Sig more reason to be bitter and pissed and like give the team even more of a reason to be like, you know what? Everything Coach is saying is right. Like we need to fight even harder. Like I love that it's going to give us bulletin board material.
So here's the poll. So Ohio State first.
Fine. I
think the Texas win is really overrated right now, but we'll give them that. What has Penn State done this year? Like why is Penn State second? Here's their wins. Nevada, Florida International, and an FCS team. That's the entirety of their wins. Georgia, fine. LSU, we've covered. That's kind of a joke. Oregon, if you want to give them that much credit for beating that Oklahoma State team by that much, I guess. Miami, again, if you apples to apples, what Indiana has done and what Miami has done, I'm not seeing the argument. Texas's wins this season are San Jose State, UTEP, and Sam Houston State.
And they lost a game.
Just
throwing that out there.
Florida State, yes, they beat Alabama. Congratulations. They beat them by 14 at home. How much did Indiana just beat Illinois by at home?
Right.
How much?
It was more than 14.
How much was it? I want to hear the number. It's 53, right?
53, yeah.
Hey, Texas A&M. Again, good job winning at Notre Dame by 1.
Well, I do have to mention they're an SEC school.
Yeah,
that's worth extra points. Just letting you know.
You know, and look, I actually think Oklahoma's underranked too. Oklahoma, you know, they just beat Auburn at home. They beat Michigan at home.
Yeah.
They've done more than almost every team above them. Ole Miss, congrats on beating Tulane and barely beating Arkansas at home. And then you got Indiana. Where
did Illinois go to? I'm just curious.
That's a great question. Let's scroll down a little bit. Where is Illinois? Illinois is 23rd. They dropped 15 spots in the poll. So
it mattered. It mattered on their end,
right?
So that's also like a 15-point drop is maybe one of the biggest drops I've seen. Notre Dame dropped 13 last week, but they hadn't won a game yet. That's a huge drop for a team, but it's like you don't get.
Here's the problem. And Arkansas just lost, as Dan Carell just pointed out. Arkansas just lost to Memphis. They lost to Memphis. Ultimately, what's frustrating about it is the mentality amongst voters that, well, we can't move this team above a team that's ranked high. But why were they ranked high?
Right.
Because they started off ranked high. Why were they ranked high? Because of the narrative.
Yeah, and then you can't put them ahead of Penn State because Penn State hasn't lost yet, and Penn State started above you. But it's like, your point is exactly it. Why?
It's the same narrative that ranked Illinois in the top 10. If you want to argue Illinois shouldn't be in the top 10 because they weren't that good, because they just got blown out by Indiana by 53 points, fine. But why doesn't that apply to the other narratives that you have installed in your brain? Why are you still giving teams credit for beating Clemson? Why are you still giving teams credit for beating Florida? Why does that matter? This is the problem with the system at this point. And we'll talk about it more on Football Weather when we cover everything with Matt Blaska later on today or tomorrow. But that's I think, it's not just Indiana that feels that way. Vanderbilt should feel the same way. Yeah. There's other teams where it's like, unless you are part of what is viewed as the privileged class of teams, you are ultimately constantly having to prove yourself. While the teams that should have to prove themselves just as much are allowed to skate, oftentimes with wins against inferior competition or even losses. The fact that Notre Dame is still ranked at 1 and 2 when they gave 30 points up to Purdue is fascinatingly bad. It just the whole system. This is why a playoff was needed for so long.
So
And
I
it
have
really should make you rethink a lot of what you thought about college football historically.
I have two questions for you in relation to ranking. So first one, people were asking, and I apologize, it was in the comments. We're going to bring it back. We're bringing back Scott's fever dream. So we're back in the season. We're bringing back the fever dream. Here is my question for you, Galen. Can you pull the rankings back up real quick?
Back up. Okay, hold on one second.
Sorry.
Oh, it's I love producing on the fly. It's great.
Do it faster. Get a better link. So here's my question. Bring it up. I want to play a fever dream where we win the next 2 games in a row. I'm just curious how far up you think we can get ranked. So if we're 12th now, we're going to beat Iowa at Iowa. It's like a 3-part question. Where do you think that puts our ranking? And then let's fever dream this. Let's have some fun. We go and we beat Oregon at Oregon. Where do you think that gets us? Could we get into top 5 or 3 territory at that point?
Yeah, you could probably get top 5. But I'll say this, if Ohio State,
You can't from Penn State, right?
Ohio State, Penn State, Georgia, LSU, and Miami and Texas all haven't lost in that span of time, because you're talking about essentially a 3-week span of time, then maybe not. Maybe you can't get into the top 5, which is the dumb thing about this whole thing.
Which is, I mean, I'm not saying it's huge. Like, it's insane because you would have beaten a top 10 team at home. You go play at a very tough venue at Iowa, and then you go beat a top 5 team on the road. Like, for me, that's the best 3-week span anyone's going to have in college football right now.
I mean, you're probably right, but I don't think that matters to a lot of voters because they don't think logically. What's going to be fascinating is that there's going to be some comparative stuff. Illinois hosts Ohio State the same weekend that Oregon hosts Indiana. So that's going to be very fascinating to see how those 2 games are metered out and how they're evaluated. Penn State, over the course of the next 3 weeks, plays Oregon at home. So one of those 2 teams will have lost already.
Right.
At UCLA and then Northwestern. And I can kind of go down the list a little bit more on that. But ultimately, what you're going to see as we move forward, I think, is a lot of inconsistent logic continually applied, because that's what we saw last year. And yes, we are, as IU fans, this is a party we never thought we'd be invited to, and
Right.
we're late walking through the door. But there's big games every week, and those will have effects, as Matt Blaska accurately points out. Oregon, Penn State, as we mentioned, and Georgia, Alabama both coming up. So that'll have some kind of an effect. But what's fascinating is the number of teams who are allowed to not do things for a longer period of time, while other teams are forced to do more and more to justify being in the spot that the other teams are in, simply based off of vibes.
Well, and back to Blaska's point, that Oregon Penn State game, it's very possible if that's a 14-13 game or just a 21-20 game, both those teams could stay ranked ahead of Indiana.
Yeah, so it's going to be fascinating to watch. And at the end of the day, it's about getting into the college football playoff.
Which is the last question I have for you, just again, kind of fever dreamy, is I'm beginning of the year, I picked us to go 11-1 and beating the win at having the win at Penn State. You had 10-2, which is also very much on the table. But I just want to play that out. I'm not ready to. We look awesome. But it's I'm not ready to just say we're going to go win at Oregon and Penn State and go clean. But I'm just, if we, let's just say we do that 10-2 that you were talking about, which I also think is very possible. If we don't win at Oregon and we don't win at Penn State, but we win everything else, do you think, and I know there's a lot of other variables, so it's just, I'm curious right now, do you think that's enough to get us in, or do you think that would be a narrative problem where it's you know what, they didn't win the two big games that we said, as a nation they had to win, I worry that just wouldn't narratively get it done.
I think a lot of it's going to depend on what everybody else does. I mean, so taking FPI, which is the main metric, as we talked about, ESPN uses. So right now, Indiana's 6th. They are projected to go 10-2. I think they're projected now at 10.4 wins, and projections don't mean much. But let's say 10-2. Let's say those are the 2 losses. You look at the rest of the teams that are in the top 15. There aren't a whole lot of teams that are projected with double-digit wins right now. This is the total number of teams that are projected to go 10 wins or better. Oregon's projected at 10.4 wins. Ohio State's projected at 10.7. Indiana's projected at 10.4. Ole Miss is projected at 10.4. Miami's projected at 11 because the ACC sucks. Texas Tech's projected at 10, and the Big 12 kind of sucks. And Memphis, who's not in a power conference, is projected at 10.8. I think there's a real good chance that even if Indiana loses those 2 games, they will have beaten Illinois handily. They will have beaten Iowa. They will have probably beaten at that point a Maryland team that looks pretty good right now.
Right.
I mean, I think you sleep on Maryland at your own peril. I don't think they're great, but by the time Indiana plays them, Maryland's schedule is Washington, Nebraska, at UCLA, and then a bye. Like Maryland could go into that game legitimately at 7-0, which would be a great scene. It would be awesome. But that's where it's hard to say for sure. I will say that FPI, they do look at the projections. We looked at these last year. Right now, Indiana is a 57.4% chance to make the college football playoff. And if you line up all of the teams in college football right now, there are only 5 teams that currently have a better chance of making the college football playoff: Ohio State, Georgia, Oregon, Ole Miss, and Miami. And USC's actually got a lower chance than Indiana right now. Texas is only a 50% chance. Alabama's a 49% chance. So I think the variable that's worth looking at with all of this is this idea of, yeah, Indiana might lose 2 tough road games, but who else also loses 2 tough road games?
That's a great point.
And so there's so many moving parts. Where Indiana has to be careful is not losing at Iowa, not losing at Maryland.
Well, and the Iowa game is so big. I was thinking about this. Like, this is the next cathartic moment, because for so many of us, that was the moment where I think a lot of us let our guard down, in 2021 or 2021, and we go to Iowa. And it's like, I think that's a house of horrors for us. And for us to be able to go back into Iowa and win, losing there would suck for a variety of reasons, but it would also suck and just like, damn it. Like, Iowa again is the tripping point. I mean, that was really where the Allen era just ended, like in the first 5 minutes. And I think we've referenced it millions of times. Like, that would just be another cathartic moment to get Iowa off our backs as it's a boogeyman place.
They should beat Iowa, but that's a tough game. It's a tough environment. And Indiana's got to do something that's very difficult for even great teams to do. You just crushed a top 10 opponent by 53 points. Euphoric. You guys saw the stadium. You saw the celebration. You saw the guys out there. And as clinical as they are, it is hard in any sport, football, basketball, anything where there's a lot of points scored. It's hard to have a huge win like that, a ranked win, a night game when everything's going your way, and then have to go on the road and play a dangerous team in their place where they will be very hyped up and they'll be very excited because they just won a big game on the road in the Big Ten. And Iowa, I mean, they're not great, but they're good. They're a very solid team. They have a lot of talent. They're coached very well. It's a hard transition. This is another test, not just for what you said, not just the historical test of going into Kinnick Stadium and beating Iowa, which just doesn't happen that often, but it's also the mental shift of putting everything good that just happened in that Illinois game behind you. And being able to,
they did this last year. I mean, you had similarly in Nebraska was a similar type of moment where it's like everything went right, like holy crap. Now, granted, the next week Washington was at home, so that was a home game, but it's like that was game day. You suddenly had game day, and then you don't have Curtis Rourke. You're playing your backup quarterback, and they sputtered a little bit, but they focused and beat Washington. So I hear you, and I thought about that, but I also think Signetti has shown his ability to do that. The thing they're going to be missing, we're really burying the lead here, and my God, I did not want to pull out this number because it's a frightening number. But Galen, as best I can tell, the end of 2023. IU at Purdue, November 25th. That was the last game that you were not at. That was, so as of today, that's 666 days. So let's get off the 666 number, but we will be about 674 days where Indiana has had Galen in the stadium for a game. And it's going to happen at some point. Like, your life has to move on at some point. But I'm just like, this is it. This is the moment.
I'm going to be there.
Keep it going. Let's go. Because I know you're going to Oregon. So.
I'm making the trip to Iowa. I will be there.
Let's talk offline. I'm debating it too. So like, I'll take my call off the air. We need to talk because I was looking at it. God, I love it. I love it that you're going.
I'll be there. I wouldn't miss it. I've been to Iowa a couple of times, not just that game. I remember I went out with Matt Zimmerman, I think in like 2012, for a game at Iowa. And I remember that
puts
game,
this season back on the table for you hitting all the games again too.
It does put it back on the table. It does. That was one of the fulcrum point ones. It's going to be a challenge, but I'm working out the logistics. But yeah, man, at this point, this team is worth covering. It's worth going and being a fan. And it's going to be a fascinating environment. And look, I have far more faith in Signetti and Brian Haynes and Mike Shanahan and the staff to be able to help this team press the reset button. And so any concerns I have they're not born out of anything other than just an acknowledgement that that's a hard thing to do regardless of who your coaches are and who your team is. In team sports, it's really hard to turn the page when you've had success. Right. It's a lot easier to turn the page when you've had failure. And so that's going to be something to watch. The execution was so good in this game. Can they keep that moving forward? And that is something that's going to be really fascinating because it is a tougher schedule than last year. And I'm just, this is a better Indiana team, I think, overall. That's hilarious.
Sorry.
I think that my daughter would know better. She'd probably actually try to have her wedding at the bucket game.
Right.
Which, you could do it up in the Henke Hall of Champions, with it as the backdrop, have a night game, have a day wedding.
Oh, yeah, you have Kate bring the bucket as the ring bearer, like the ring.
Wow. I'll mention that to him as a possibility. That's amazing.
Shirt off.
Anyway, we're going to wrap up. We've been going almost 90 minutes, and we're probably not going to be around long enough for the AP poll. Scott and I will do a little VIP video later. We'll talk about the AP poll. We also need to talk a little about,
what do you think? It's probably same 13th, 12th.
Yeah, I mean, if the coaches poll is going to do that, and the fact that Indiana was lower in the AP poll, and given the obstinance and just general lack of willingness to consider new material out of a lot of the writers across this country that we see, I wouldn't be shocked if Indiana was like 13th.
But again, I'm with you, like, who cares?
Should be third. Indiana should be third in the country right now. Third. Not 13th, not 12th. They should be third. But that's why you go and play Iowa and beat them. And then you get a week's rest, and then you get to have a matchup that might be the game of the year in college football, Indiana, Oregon.
So with that said, where's game day going to be that week?
Probably. Well, the thing is, it'll probably be in Dallas because the Red River Shootout is that day.
By the way, I loved Fox. Like, just a horrible timing. They sent out the tweet, like, I think right before the game started, of like, hey, we're going to big noon Saturday is going to be in Illinois next week.
Yeah.
It's like, great. Here's the Indiana will feed you the carcass of the Illini. Have fun.
Yeah, the little shine has come off that game, I would say, guys. Sorry about that. I will say one quick thing about Iowa, and we're going to talk a lot more about Iowa, Big Red Carpet. Taylor and I think we'll do another preview pod later this week. But the thing about Iowa, that was an impressive win at Rutgers, 38-28. It was a very back-and-forth game. I am curious how good Rutgers is. Rutgers let Ohio score 31 points on them this season. Miami of Ohio scored 17 on them. I don't know if Rutgers defense is actually that good. Iowa deserves a lot of credit, but that was a very uncharacteristic Iowa performance defensively, which I thought was kind of interesting. So a lot to think about there. There's going to be a lot on tape. And one of the fascinating things about the comments from Signetti in this Illinois game, when he was asked, like, oh, how did you get so much pressure on Illinois? He's like, we'll just watch the Duke tape.
Right.
Which was just, man, that was a cold statement, Kurt. Wow. But he was right. And it's one of the things that is you start to gain confidence, true confidence in being an IU fan in the Signetti era. It's that this coaching staff has insights and is able to see things on tape and then translate that into the meeting rooms and onto the practice field that IU can take advantage of. I'm fascinated to see how this goes next week. So anyway, final thoughts, Scott, before we wrap up.
Dude, that was awesome. I mean, like, and it's funny. I go back to what I've said a couple of times. I had these moments last year, like when we did the pod after Nebraska or after Washington or after Michigan, where it's like, that was awesome. And I'm like, man, I just hope that wasn't the apex. And this team continues to find new apexes. That was just awesome. I think, like many people, I've been excited for that game since we left Notre Dame Stadium at the, in December, because you knew this game was going to start the Big Ten season. You knew Illinois, and when they started getting the hype and they got ranked, this is something that it's a night we haven't seen before. And I was expecting a win. I had some bets on us winning, which was awesome. I just was not expecting that. Like, I was just not expecting to see that. It was amazing. And it feels like any concerns, I'll speak for myself. Any concerns that I had the beginning of the year of like, man, are we going to be able to replicate some of this? Like, we don't quite look as spot on. Like, I'm concerned, giving up some big plays, like all those concerns just completely washed away. And now, I'm the guard is down. Like, I'm ready to just be, if my heart is broken again, it's broken again. And I don't think it'll be broken too many more times. Like, you're not going to win them all, but I'm at a point now where it's like, man, we've shown that we can play at this level. We can replicate what we're doing, and we can be a really dominant team in the Big Ten. That was just an amazing experience. And, like the goal is just make Memorial Stadium like that for the rest of the season. And, I think it's very possible now that we win out at home. It's back-to-back. Ready to get hurt again. Yes, I do have the bragging rights. We're going to do, it's probably not Chardonnay. We're staying in the reds. We're going to stay, it's a red out. We're going to do the Merlots, and we'll go to the, the red mixes. Side note, you're probably going to win all of our home games this year again, too. And that's back-to-back years. Signetti starts out without, winning at home, hasn't lost a game at home. Not going to happen these 2 years. It's awesome. Dude, it's awesome.
We'll go ahead and wrap things up. As always, we really appreciate all you folks for joining us, whether you watched us live on YouTube or whether you're watching us after the fact on Spotify or listening to us on Apple. Always appreciate all of you folks. Was really appreciative of all you folks that found me in the tailgate lots.
Saw a lot of people yesterday. It was awesome. Always appreciate it.
It's a wonderful, wonderful community, and we couldn't be happier to be a part of it. So thank you all. And good job, Indiana football. What a win. What a tremendous amount of fan service to be able to go out and win by that level so dominantly. You just feel like special things are in store for this team again. So that'll wrap it up for us. For Scott Caulfield, I'm Galen Clavio. This is CrimsonCast. We will catch you folks on the flip side. Indiana 4-0. They beat Illinois. Iowa next. Stay never daunted, folks. So long, everybody.